Introduction to Shirk. In Islam, shirk is the gravest sin and represents the concept of associating partners with Allah God. The term shirk derives from the Arabic root shrk, which means to share or to associate. In theological terms, it refers to the act of attributing divinity or worship to anyone or anything other than Allah. This sin is considered unpardonable if not repented for during one's lifetime, as stated in the Quran. Indeed, Allah does not forgive association with Him, but He forgives what is less than that for whom He wills. Types of shirk. Shirk al-Akbar. Major shirk. Major shirk involves explicit acts of worship or belief that deny the oneness of Allah. It is considered an unforgivable sin if a person dies without repenting for it. Worshipping other gods. This includes praying, sacrificing, or showing reverence to anything or anyone other than Allah, such as idols, prophets, saints, or celestial bodies. Attributing divine attributes to others. Claiming that any entity shares Allah's unique attributes, such as omnipotence or omniscience, is considered major shirk. Believing in intermediaries. Some may believe that intermediaries, like saints or spirits, have the power to intercede directly with Allah on their behalf, which is also a form of major shirk. Types of shirk. Shirk al-Asghar. Minor shirk. Minor shirk, while not as severe as major shirk, still represents a significant spiritual flaw. It includes acts that may lead to shirk or dilute pure monotheism, Riya, showing off. Performing acts of worship or good deeds to gain praise or recognition from others, rather than for the sake of Allah, is considered minor shirk. Superstitions. Believing in omens or practices that imply reliance on anything other than Allah's will can fall into the category of minor shirk. Swearing by something other than Allah. This act, though common in various cultures, is considered a form of minor shirk, as it indirectly attributes power or significance to something other than Allah. The significance of Tawheed, monotheism. To fully understand shirk, one must also comprehend its opposite, Tawheed, which is the cornerstone of Islamic belief. Tawheed refers to the absolute oneness and uniqueness of Allah in His lordship, names, and attributes, and in worship. It emphasizes that Allah alone is worthy of worship, has no partners, and nothing is comparable to Him. Tawheed is the essence of the Shahada, the Islamic declaration of faith. There is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is His messenger. Consequences of shirk. The consequences of shirk are severe in Islam. The Quran repeatedly warns against it, and the Hadith literature supports these warnings. A person who dies in a state of major shirk, without repenting, is considered to be condemned to eternal punishment in hell. Indeed, he who associates others with Allah has forbidden him paradise, and his refuge is the fire, and there are not for the wrongdoers any helpers. Different forms of shirk. Shirk, the act of associating partners with Allah, can manifest in many subtle and often unrecognized ways in daily life. While obvious forms like idol worship are well known, there are less apparent ways people may commit shirk in contemporary practices. Trusting amulets or talismans for protection. Many people wear amulets, charms, or carry objects believing they provide protection, bring good luck, or ward off evil. Relying on such objects, rather than placing trust solely in Allah, is a form of shirk. This includes using items like lucky stones, horseshoes, or specific jewelry believed to have protective powers. Seeking help from jinns or spirits. In some cultures, it is common to seek assistance from jinns, spirits, or other supernatural beings for various purposes, such as finding lost items, healing illnesses, or gaining knowledge. Relying on these beings instead of Allah constitutes shirk, as it implies that these creatures have power independent of Allah's will. Obsession with wealth, status, or fame. When a person's thoughts, efforts, and desires are primarily focused on accumulating wealth, gaining status, or achieving fame, these things can become like idols. If they become the central focus of one's life, overshadowing the importance of worshiping and relying on Allah, it can be considered a form of shirk. Idolizing people, elevating individuals such as celebrities, influencers, political leaders, or even spiritual figures to a level where they are admired or followed obsessively can also be a form of shirk. When people blindly follow or emulate others, believing that their success or happiness depends on them, they may inadvertently place them in a position that belongs only to Allah. Magic and sorcery. Engaging in any form of magic, whether for harm or seemingly benign purposes like love spells or fortune-telling, is considered shirk. Magic often involves invoking powers or entities other than Allah, which is a direct violation of Tawhid. Seeking knowledge of the unseen, for example, mediums and future readings, consulting astrologers, fortune-tellers, mediums, or psychics to gain insight into the future, communicate with the dead, or uncover hidden truths is a form of shirk. This practice suggests that these individuals have knowledge or abilities that only Allah possesses. Swearing by something other than Allah. People sometimes swear oaths by things other than Allah, such as their mother's grave, a loved one, or even on something valuable. This act implies that the thing sworn upon has a level of reverence that should be reserved for Allah alone. Over-reliance on modern technology or science. While using technology and benefiting from science is encouraged, placing absolute trust in these things as the ultimate source of solutions, healing, or truth without recognizing Allah's control over all things can border on shirk. For instance, believing that medicine alone, without Allah's will, can heal, or that technology can completely secure one's future, detracts from Tawhid. Relying on dead people for help. Some people call upon dead saints, prophets, or ancestors for help, protection, or intercession. This practice is shirk because it attributes divine powers to those who have passed away, rather than relying solely on Allah. Ritualistic practices or superstitions. Engaging in rituals or superstitions with the belief that they can influence outcomes such as knocking on wood, avoiding certain numbers, or performing specific actions to avoid bad luck reflects a reliance on something other than Allah's will. Belief in omens or signs. Interpreting natural occurrences or events as omens that can predict good or bad luck, or acting upon such beliefs, is a form of shirk. This includes seeing certain birds, numbers, or events as harbingers of specific outcomes, which places trust in these signs rather than in Allah. Following desires or cultural norms over divine guidance. When people prioritize their desires, cultural practices, or societal norms over what Allah has commanded, they risk committing shirk. This can include actions like prioritizing wealth accumulation over charity, engaging in unethical business practices because everyone does it, or compromising religious principles for social acceptance. Venerating graves and tombs. Visiting the graves of religious figures or loved ones to seek blessings, or believing that these places hold special powers to grant requests, can also lead to shirk. While visiting graves for remembrance is permissible, attributing divine power to the deceased or their burial sites is not. Obsession with personal image and social media. In the modern world, many people are consumed with their image, particularly on social media platforms. If the pursuit of likes, followers, or validation becomes more important than one's relationship with Allah, it can become a subtle form of idolatry, where the self or public image takes precedence over spiritual integrity. Belief in horoscopes and zodiac signs. Trusting in horoscopes or zodiac signs to predict personality traits, behaviors, or future events is another way people unknowingly commit shirk. This belief places power in celestial bodies rather than recognizing Allah as the sole controller of fate. Engaging in showing off, performing acts of worship, charity, or good deeds with the intention of gaining approval, praise, or recognition from others, rather than seeking Allah's pleasure, is considered a form of minor shirk. This includes publicly showcasing one's piety or generosity for worldly acclaim. Using illicit methods for protection or success. Turning to unethical means, such as bribery, cheating, or deceit, under the belief that these actions will ensure success or safety, reflects a lack of trust in Allah's provision and justice, and thus constitutes a form of shirk. Seeking help from others in times of hardship. When faced with difficulties, people often turn to those they perceive as powerful, such as leaders, influential figures, or spiritual guides. While seeking practical help or advice from others is permissible, the problem arises when this reliance turns into an absolute dependence, believing that these individuals have the ultimate power to change one's situation. Excessive gratitude to others in times of good. In times of success or relief, people may express gratitude to those who help them, which is normal and encouraged in Islam. However, it can border on shirk when this gratitude turns into a belief that these individuals, rather than Allah, are the ultimate source of one's success or well-being. Seeking spiritual assistance from religious figures. People often seek the help of religious figures, such as imams, saints, or spiritual leaders, during times of crisis or for blessings. While asking for prayers or advice is permissible, it becomes problematic when one believes that these figures possess divine power to influence outcomes independent of Allah's will. Thinking influential people as if they were the ultimate benefactors. After receiving help, whether financial support, job opportunities, or social favors, people often express their thanks to the benefactor. However, if this gratitude turns into a belief that the benefactor is the ultimate source of their success or sustenance, it crosses into shirk. Believing in the power of networks or connections. In today's world, many people place their trust in social networks, business connections, or political alliances as the ultimate means to achieve their goals. While using connections is part of human effort, believing that these alone determine one's success or failure, without acknowledging Allah's control, can be a subtle form of shirk. Total trust and reliance should be placed solely in Allah Tawakkul. In Islam, total trust and reliance should be placed solely in Allah, the one who is the creator, sustainer, and controller of all things. Only Allah is worthy of worship, and only He possesses the power to help, provide, and protect. While seeking help, advice, or assistance from others is part of our human experience, it is crucial to remember that these people and things are merely instruments through which Allah's will is carried out. To safeguard our faith, we must constantly check our intentions, ensuring that our reliance, worship, and gratitude are directed solely toward Allah, recognizing that all help, success, and provision ultimately come from Him alone. We can avoid the hidden traps of shirk and maintain the purity of our relationship with our Creator. And your Lord says, "Call upon me, I will respond to you."